Hey everybody, welcome. Time for us to wrap up the weekend's racing action with a trip to the capital of KZN. Hollywoodbets Scottsville in Pietermaritzburg is the venue on Sunday afternoon for an 8-race program that gets underway at 12:30. By and large, I do think it's a pretty tricky meeting. There are races where we definitely need to load up and put a few in the exotics to safely see us through, and those races will of course be more challenging when it comes to choosing an outright winner, especially if we are going to be playing the Hollywoodbet Punter Challenge. But let's work our way through the meeting, preview the card, and see if we can find a few winners on this card. First race off 12:30, it's a maiden juvenile plate for fillies, where 9 runners are carded to run over 1,100 metres. I'll start with number 1, Belle of Anglais. Now this horse had 3 runs to date, was a little bit below par last time out after having run a good debut, and then obviously showing the natural improvement first to second run. What happened between those 2 runs and the last start, this horse changed stable, now in the care of Tini Prinsloo. Having a second run for a new stable, gets the services of Gavin Lorena. I do think 1 for the shortlist because this horse is pretty speedy, and I do think there's scope for improvement, so 1 Belle of Anglais is a definite inclusion. Another one that we need to include is number 3, Captain's Pride. Now this horse should have finished a lot closer last time out, was green and was also a little bit hesitant when asked for that final effort. I do think with that run under the belt, there's definitely more to come. But when I got to number 4, Treasure Island, I was sold. This horse placed on debut and showed lots of toe from the get-go and only got outrun in the closing stages of this race. And after that very good debut, with any amount of natural improvement to come, I do think that Tristan Godden and Mike Miller can find themselves in the number 1 box after the running of the first. So I'm going for Treasure Island to win it, ahead of 3, 1 and 6. We move on to the second race on the card, which is a maiden plate for 3-year-old fillies. 13 runners to carded to run over 1,200 metres. I'll start with number 2, Light in the Darkness. Now this horse has got moderate form, but I do think Dennis Bosch made a shrewd move to book Muzieni to ride number 2, Light in the Darkness. If you look through the form, you'll see the last time Muzi rode this horse finished 3rd, and I do think that Dennis is expecting a big run from number 2, Light in the Darkness, hence the booking of Muzi, 1 to consider for back end of quartets. I see number 3, Midnight Tour, the Vercingetorix first-timer, cost 600,000 Rand as a yearling, one that I'm definitely going to keep an eye on. 5, Miss Galore, definitely needs to be considered. Placed on debut, definitely should have come on with the benefit of that run under the belt. This one from the stable of Duncan Hulls, and in the winning form, you'll see that Duncan says Miss Galore has shown improvements since the first run and can give a good account of herself, so she's definitely 1 for the shortlist. But I like number 6, Princess Goldie. This is Dean Canamere's only runner on the day. She's got decent form. She's overdue to unsettle in the number 1 box. She's always there or thereabout. She's all about the action, and I do think she can be rewarded for consistency. So I'm going with 6, Princess Goldie to win it, ahead of 5, 2 and 11. Moving on to the third race on the card. Now this is a maiden plate for 3-year-olds to be run over 1,200 metres, and 10 runners are carded in race 3. Let me start with number 1, Trend Maker. Now this horse likes to race up handy, but if you look at the form, just lacks that finish. And with Serena Moodley back on board, who's really gotten to know this horse well, I'm sure Serena by now knows exactly what to do to extricate that little bit extra out of Trent Maker. I like the look of number 6, Good Living. This horse has got solid form, and I do think that Paul Lafferty and Muzieni can win the third race on the card. This horse has been getting closer with each and every start. Muzi rode him in his last 2 starts, so Muzi's gotten to know him well. This time round, I think they're going to make sure that in the number 1 box is where they're going to end up. So I'm going with 6, Good Living to win it, ahead of 1, Trend Maker. For third, I'm going with 8, Little Cracker, who's showing signs of improvement, and fourth with number 10, Mont Tremblant. 6, 1, 8, 10, the numbers in race number 3. Fourth race is the feature race on the card. This is the non-black type Fever Tree Stakes to be run over 1,500 metres, and a small yet competitive field of 7 runners will face the starter. A couple of them are renewing rivalry. We'll get to that in a second. I'm going to start with number 2, African Skyline. Always there or thereabout from the stable of Garth Puller, I do think can feature in this kind of lineup, and definitely one to consider. Number 3, Narina Tragon. Now this one is a kilo and a half better off at the weights, with number 7, Imolyenzi Yokodaduma, for a 0.8 length beating, and that should be enough to turn the tables. Number 4, Field Marshal, needed that comeback run, should strip fitter second run after rest. I do like the look of number 5, Former Gear, to give my first choice selection a run for his money. This one from the stable of Peter Muscat gets the services of Gavin Larena. He's got a few good rides on the day. I do think a repeat of that last run when going to the front could definitely make him a very, very strong challenge and may even be hard to peg back in the closing stages. But number 7, Imolyenzi Yokodaduma, stands out in this race, was the winner of his last 2 starts, and if you look at the form, you'll see he won his only attempt over this course and distance, so that tells me he's on song to bring up that trick. So I'm going 7, Imolyenzi Yokodaduma to win it, ahead of number 5, Former Gear, 3, Narina Tragon, and 2, African Sky. We move on to race 5 on the card, and race 5 is a Class 4, benchmark 80, 11 runners carded to run over 1750. This, I thought, was one of the more trickier races on the card, even though I am siding with a first choice selection here in number 9, Global Movement. I do think that this horse has got solid recent form, definitely cannot be ignored in a lineup like this, although there are other hard knockers in the race with Gavin Larena on board. Definitely must have a chance, because if one looks at the form, you'll see 3 runs ago was the last time Gavin Larena rode this horse. End result in the number 1 box, and it's on that sort of line of thinking that I'm going with 9, Global Movement as my first choice selection. For second, I'm going with 4, View of the World. This horse was unlucky last time out, also has solid form. We can once again expect an honest performance. For third, I'm going with 1, JP's Palace, who's having his peak run here, and I do think definitely one that will be in the money. And for fourth, I'm going with number 5, Fireburst. That was a good second last time out. A repeat of that run could see this one in the money as well. So 9, 4, 1 and 5 are the numbers I'm going with in race number 5. We move on to race 6 on the card. Now race 6 is a Class 4, benchmark 80. 10 runners carded to run over 1750. And there's really not much inspiring form to go on. None of these horses are going to Hollywood. In fact, it was very difficult for me to make a choice in the end, but marginally I'm going to be siding with number 1, Nocturnal Flight, as the horse I think they have to beat. Has got decent form, can be competitive, and I do think that Peter Muscat and Gavin Larena can be the 2 from pole position that ends up in the number 1 box. But there are others that need to be considered. You need to put in the likes of number 4, Giver's Grace. This horse makes his stable debut for Michael Roberts. Rachel Veneker takes the 1.5 kilos off the back, and I do think on current form, this horse can finish in the money. 5, Send Me is the kind of horse that will be running on in the closing stages and definitely needs to be included. So you can see there are a couple that one can make a case for in the 6th race, and I've decided to go 1, 5, 4, 3 with my selection in race number 6. We move on to race 7, another difficult race to contend with. It's a middle stakes, 14 runners carded to run over 1200 meters, and I'll start with number 2, Perilla. This one from the stable of Dennis Bosch. This horse has been a model of consistency. I do think there was a very good second last time out, and this is the horse that one cannot leave out, especially with Rachel Veneker on board. She, of course, gets that 1.5 kilos off the back. 3, Riverstone comes to KZN from Cape Town, and if you look at the Cape Town form, you'll see that this horse was really up against some solid individuals down here in Cape Town, and Cape Town form taken anywhere else in the country normally stands out, and I do think that Riverstone in this kind of lineup does, to me, rate the one to beat from the stable of Gareth Van Sale, and I'm going to go with Riverstone to win it, ahead of number 2, Perilla. For third, I'm going with number 6, Bourbon Warrior. Now, both this horse wins were over the course and distance, and I do think Bourbon Warrior needs to be included. And for fourth, I'm going with 8, Captain Christie. So 3, 2, 6 and 8 are the numbers I'm going with in race number 7. And that takes us on to the last race on the card. Race 8 is a Class 4 for fillies and mares. Benchmark 80. 11 runners carded to run over 1,400 metres. Let me start with number 3, West Side Story. This horse is edging closer with each and every run, and I do think is the kind of horse that does make the shortlist. 5, Pour Some Sugar on Me. I remember having gone for this horse last time out. This is the kind of horse that always gives you a run for your money. Second run after race should strip a lot fitter. I think we can expect another solid run from number 5, Pour Sugar on Me. But when I got to number 6, Regeneration, I thought, that's it. 2 runs, 2 wins, an unbeaten horse that runs in a Class 4 is definitely the kind of horse we need to consider. Both those wins have come at Hollywoodbets Greyville. Comes back from a 13-week break. Looks to still be on the up, and I do think the break would have done this horse the world of good, and I'm going with 6, Regeneration, to remain undefeated ahead of 5, Pour Some Sugar on Me, 3, West Side Story, and 11, Happy Fortune. 6, 5, 3, and 11 are the numbers I'm going with in the last of the afternoon, and that wraps up our preview for racing at Hollywoodbets Scottsville on Sunday afternoon. Don't forget, if you are going to be playing the Hollywoodbet Punter Challenge, you need to be on 5 minutes before the advertised starting time. You need to take the bet slip. Spend the $50 because that's the difference between winning just a normal pot or making yourself an instant millionaire if you're the one person that correctly picks all the winners on this program. Trust you'll find those winners. Trust you'll find the winners' enclosure. From me, Rouvaun. Till next time, enjoy Sunday racing. Cheers for now.